Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to SSI2. This is day one, and we are on match 9, the finals winner decider. I am Cyclo Hexanol, joined by BBP. BBP, what can you tell us about the House Goondor roster set?
So House Goondor has shown up with a pretty goontastic comp, bringing all short-range brawly ships. They are bringing a Harbinger Navy issue, a Deimos, an Omen Navy issue, an Ares, a Kitsune, and a Griffin. All of their ships are fit with very, very close-range guns. You know, think pulse lasers, think neutron blasters. They're going for getting right up in your face and blowing things up. They also are bringing the dreaded ECM, which I'm very curious to see how it works, as this is post-ECM nerf, so they can't really prevent themselves from getting killed, but they might be able to save their friends.
Right, and on the Templis side, we have kind of a standardish Brutix Navy issue setup that we've seen in the past. However, a slight change with this setup is we see a very heavy hull tank with a lot of bulkheads on that Brutix Navy issue, and the Exequror Navy issue as well, without a rep. So we have a lot of buffer, and Templis are going to be relying a lot on breaking through some of their opponents before their opponents can really break through these beefy tanks. It's kind of important to note that the Templis team is pretty long range. Their 3 core ships have rail guns, and they're going to be able to hit out pretty far. So after that ECM nerf, these ECM ships, the Kitsune and the Griffin on the Goondor side, are going to be in for a little bit of a trip here, especially with that Keres that's going to be able to damp them down as well.
Whoa, we also have interesting that I want to call out before we move on is that the Templis team actually has fit a ton of sensor boosters, which makes me kind of want to look into the meta of the pick and bans here, right? So clearly Templis had a feeling that goons were going to be bringing an ECM setup. Can you tell me like a little bit about that?
Not necessarily. Templis might have thought that the goons would be bringing an ECM setup. However, with this current meta, since I'm pretty sure Templis isn't able to bring the Drake Navy issue setup anymore, the Brutix Navy issue setup is actually the second strongest setup that we've seen thus far in the tournament, with the amount of buffer and potential rep power, but also DPS application it can put out. We also see a very strong power pick on the Templis team. We see a Deimos that's pretty properly fit. It's micro fit. It has that medium cat booster, and it's also dual reps. So a huge factor when bringing the Deimos is, can the Deimos be broken first or before a lot of DPS leaves the field? Because if you lose even your battle cruiser, and that's the only thing you lose, you're not going to have enough DPS output to actually break a well set up Deimos. And what can you tell us about the House of Goondor?
I'm gonna talk about the match real quick. House of Goondor has actually already lost their Griffin, and Templis warped in pretty far off, while House of Goondor warped in right at the center of the arena. Looks like Templis is kiting away using those long range ships that as you predicted, and House Goondor has already lost one of their ships, and their Deimos is tackled by Templis CALSF. So Templis is doing a great job screening and kiting.
Someone call Shakespeare, because Templis Captain, the last Spartan, has just made a play and taken down that Griffin with the long-range rail setup. And it looks like goons are trying to return fire onto a Rorqual's Navy Brutix. However, remember, this is hull tanked, and they are still struggling to get through armor. Bringing the close-range weapon system might not have been the best idea, because while Templis is able to apply out here at range and get a good kite game going, it seems like House of Goondor is really struggling to catch up and apply any damage whatsoever. However, the Keres, which is one of NAB fit, is scram-webbed at the time, as well as the Ares of Savoy.
Yeah, it looks like Templis is having a little bit of trouble applying damage. I think those jams are doing quite well, and the tracking disruptor on the Navy Brutix. They may finally be able to do some damage to that Navy Omen, and while Templis did immediately get that Griffin off field, they stuttered for a little bit, and Brutix is about to hit hull. Remember, it is hull tank, so it's going to take quite a lot longer to actually drop from here than it has to get to this point. And I think Templis is going for a trade. They actually just alphaed the Griffin, or he boundaried. I think he might have boundaried, seeing how far out he is. And the Navy Omen goes down as well for House Goondor. So Goondor just lost almost all of their control besides that Ares and any tank or any tackle. As you see, only the Navy Brutix is tackled at this point, and looks like Templis is going to go for the Deimos. Now, you said that the Deimos is a very, very tanky ship. Do you think they're going to be able to break it before they lose that Navy Brutix?
I'm pretty sure they'll be able to break it, and in this particular setup, even if they lose that Navy Brutix, unless Goondor is also able to drop either the Navy Exec or the Deimos, I think that Templis will be able to drop the Deimos due to the fact that this particular Deimos is only single rep and has a small cap booster. So potentially this Deimos is going to drop pretty quickly when focused down. And Templis, of course, going for that play, knowing that a well-fit Deimos needs to be destroyed before you start losing your DPS in order to ensure that you can actually have enough DPS on field to break it. And as I'm saying that, we have a very close trade going on here, as Oracle's Navy Brutix and the Deimos are kind of neck and neck for who's going to die first. Remember that Oracle's Navy Brutix does not have any active rep, and the Deimos goes down.
And Navy Brutix is probably soon to follow, but I think you're right, that single rep Deimos, especially with an ancillary, just was not able to keep up. And Goondor does take down the Navy Brutix, and weirdly enough, because of the rules, Goondor's could still win if that Navy Harbinger lives through the entire thing. However, I kind of doubt that's going to happen, as one Navy Harbinger versus Templis' Deimos and Navy Exequror is probably not going to survive here, and Goondor's Ares has been tackled the entire time, doing basically nothing. That Navy Harbinger is already through half armor here, and the Goondor's Navy Harbinger fit does have a rep on it, or does not have a rep on it. So once his armor goes down, he's just going to pop really quickly here. And it looks like he's trying to take out that Navy Exequror, which you also said is hull tanked as well, so they might be getting bait tanked a little here.
Yeah, and this must feel super bad for Dirk Statiel, the Navy Harbinger pilot, who's also their captain, as he's scram-webbed and there's not much he can do. This Deimos will be able to get nearly right on top of him, and once that happens, there's really going to be no chance that that Harbinger breaks the Deimos. Its best hope would be to survive through rep power. However, as you said, this Harbinger doesn't have a rep; it only has that 1600 plate, right? So at this point, this match has probably already been decided within the first few minutes of the match.
Well, you can see that the Deimos is, he's taking a ton of damage, but every time his rep cycles go off, he just reps almost all of the Harbinger's damage right off the bat. So there's pretty much zero chance here. I think Templis bringing in those crazy long-range rail setups and just wiping out the support of House Goondor right off the bat was just a really, really solid play on their part.
Right. I don't know what happened with that Griffin pilot at the beginning. It's possible that he didn't move fast enough. Generally, when you fly a frigate or a destroyer in a tournament like this, especially when you don't have Logi to support you, the first thing you need to do as soon as that timer hits 0 and the match starts, you need to get as much transversal as possible to try and mitigate some of that damage that's going to be applied to you. It's possible that he just stuck at low speeds and tried to ECM targets. And that might have been a really bad play for him, but he just got absolutely deleted, and the misplay from the Kitsune definitely didn't help the House Goondor team as well.
Just to confirm, the Kitsune did boundary.
All right, called it. So Kitsune guy decided to burn straight off, and yeah, there he is sitting over at the edge there. Probably the worst misplay you can possibly do is boundarying when you are in such a small match that you really shouldn't have any excuse. He wasn't even tackled, so Goons kind of threw that away pretty hard there. They tried ECM, didn't work. They tried brawling in, got kited really hard. Templis CALSF will be moving on towards the next match on day 2. Goons, unfortunately, are out, which means my predictions, as well as several other people's, were terrible. Goons, still, please don't take down and kill all my spaceships. And with that, we're going to move on to the next match.